Hi, hey, hello, and welcome. I am Kirsten. This is Tristan, and we are Haseya Inc. Welcome to our Monday Conscious Conversation.
Welcome, welcome. We're continuing our happiness series. Who doesn't want more happiness in their life? Am I right? So we're so glad you're here. Happy Monday. And we're moving into a new month and we're moving into our 30-day challenge. And so there's so many great things today. We're feeling motivated, we're feeling inspired, we're ready to pour into you, we're ready to serve. So, this conversation right here, though, is absolute fire. I am so excited to have this conversation. It just feels so good. Um, but we're going to move into something that might seem really big, really formal, worship. Arthur Brooks talks about worship being one of the biggest pieces of happiness, but we promise that we're going to really be taking talking about it in such a way that it's deep and it's alive, and we're moving into this conversation about devotion.
Yes, ma'am. And Tristan said it's a series. So last week, if you didn't catch that conversation, we dove deep into the realms of love. So check that out. But today, devotion. Um, and devotion, worship, I know those words can sometimes be interchangeable, and we're going to talk about that today. But just right off the top, what it's not. We're not coming from a space of religion or dogma. Think way beyond the restrictions of shoulds and what that should look like. Really, we're talking about what is it what is it that we honor on a day-to-day basis. Where does our heart lead us? um, where do we go when life is so busy and so noisy and chaotic, and we come back to this peace, this serenity, this connection that exists inside each and every one of us?
Yeah, absolutely. We're exploring how worship, or what we also call reverence or devotion, is actually one of the deepest paths to happiness. It really is, because we'll look at it through the lens of spiritual psychology, science, Jesus' teachings, and of course, new thought.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop.
Our peeps. Oh man. um I just off the cuffs here, Tristan. I remember the shift of when I stopped making my worship and devotion what I was told that it was supposed to look like, where I just got to sink into a space of stillness in my own right, and the transcendence of that experience and what it felt like, not only, internally, where I was having this spiritual, experiences that, grew over time, but also viscerally. Like I could feel the changes in my body that sometimes I would feel at like church and worship services when I was singing and my heart again was being really moved and directed.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, oh my gosh, always was moved in music at church. And Um, sometimes within the prayer and scripture that was led, but a lot of times I was just so hungry for information and how to do it right and things. And but I always had such a different connection and to God. Like for me, it was a visceral experience. It was a deep knowing and constant conversation within me. So, but I often thought I was doing it wrong. So, I was overthinking this unbelievable connection that I had, and trying to do it right. And so it's an interesting conversation for sure, and being able to trust that internal compass.
Yeah. So just, let us know. You guys, this is a conversation. This is community. let us know where you're at on your journey. Have you stepped outside the bounds of that yet? Is your first time ever doing that, seeking something, or what is your story? What is your experience? And then where are you at now? What are you hungry for? What are you seeking? Um, because ultimately, when we're having this conversation about devotion, is we're bringing it ourselves back to recognize, we are in essence the center of our experience. We're literally witnessing things from our lens, our perception, 99% of the time, until we allow ourselves to take the back seat, right? We allow ourselves to actually become the observer of life, the observer of self, and we recognize, the true center, the true essence of it all is love, is spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we fell in love with this conversation that Arthur Brooks, we were able to listen to him speak, and we had just a really strong excitement and just like there was a lightness about it. It was so simple. He's just like, these are, four ways that he teaches to have more happiness at Harvard. And we were like, oh, let's explore this and let's talk about it, from our standpoint and from our teachings and, from our coaching experience and things. And so, no, he says one of the pillars of happiness is faith, right? And not necessarily organized religion, but a sense of transcendence. He says you need to do something that makes you small and the universe big. And I love that because we make everything about us. And all the little things, and we're putting meaning and meaning and meaning, and we try to control and we try to obsess, not try but we do, and we we have find ourselves in out of faith with a higher power. We've out of faith of the infinite intelligence that's behind all of creation, right? I mean, that's huge, you guys. You have to really think about that. And to us, that's what worship is. It's choosing to remember that we're not the center, but love is, God is, Spirit is. And when we're in prayer every day and our personal practices, we're putting ourselves in that awe moment before we start moving through our day in prayer and in meditation, where we're listening and we're feeling and we're focused on the worship of that right there. And so that worship is a returning, rather. It's a reverent moment where we align with the divine within us.
It is our hope. It is our prayer that when we talk about these things, that you too begin to viscerally feel them, that you
Mhm.
feel them at a deep spiritual space, that kind of brings you to, I don't know, this utter appreciation of being alive, this removal of like the weight of life, and just, I don't know, having reverence of, holy cow, I'm divinely held all the time and supported and guided. um, which really, really happens when we begin to make this shift, when we expand our awareness and we really start to look at, what is it that we're actually devoted to, you know, um, because the truth is, Thomas Troward says that joy is a part of our spiritual DNA. It is not something that we have to chase, happiness. We don't have to chase it. It's just something that we need to stop blocking. And our worship and our devotion allows us to unblock ourselves from joy, because we're realigning ourselves with spirit, with infinite potential, with God, whatever word works there for you. That's what we're talking about.
hmm And knowing that it's all the same thing. We're not talking about worshiping different entities. We believe in one creative power that's the backing of all of creation. But whether you do that through prayer, journaling, lighting a candle, standing at in awe at the sunrise or whatever it is that gets you in awe. It's that moment. It's that moment when your mind softens and your heart opens. That's worship. And I love, listen, we've spent so much time with Thomas Troward, but I love that right there because he talks about, he debunks this thing that we've been constantly told and taught, and that's that road to happiness, that searching and striving to happiness, finding it, find the happiness, find the happiness. And that joy is a part of our spiritual DNA. And that goes from his study of Jesus, his study of different religions and science. And he is a brilliant, brilliant man, but that worship of that higher power beyond that we are expressions of, that we are connected, that we are created out of and always creating with, that unblocks us because we're realigning. And that's why we're so passionate about prayer. That's why we're so passionate about spiritual practice, right? But you said, here's the thing, we all worship something. We all worship something. And whether you're like, well, I know what I worship. I go to church on Sunday, and I um say a quick prayer or whatever. What about the rest of the time? We all worship something. We worship the schedules, we worship our phones, we worship our anxiety, we worship our to-do list. You guys, think about it. Just a real quick list. Write down all the things that you worship on a day that gets your, on a day-to-day basis, that gets your obsession, your stress. What am I devoting my energy to? What gets my reverence? Where does my attention go first thing in the morning? First thing in the morning, what do? Grab your phone, check your emails, scroll. What is it? Is it instantly opening your eyes and, being in the worship of life that is in your body as you open your eyes? What is it for you? Gratitude. I've heard, people say, I wake up, I start with my gratitude. I do too. I just start thinking about all the things. Oh my gosh, Spotty, hey, I opened my eyes. I'm breathing. Another day, another day. Doesn't mean that every day is necessarily in my category of good, or easy. I get another day. I get another day to create. I get another day to love. I get another day to worship. So worship becomes a happiness practice when we consciously place something higher, something sacred at the center of our awareness. And that's a daily, um, intentional practice.
There's a question that we ask our clients. What is the one thing that I can do that makes everything else seem less important, less heavy, less pertinent? And we always follow that question up, right, with our spiritual practice. Because the truth is when we do consciously put our sacredness and our practices first, everything else falls away. It doesn't mean that your to-do list isn't there when you get done, but the way that you move throughout them. And if you sit with those questions and you honestly look at like your day to day, it can kind of be a smack in the face, right? Like, I do worship a lot of things, and wow, like the first thing I'm thinking about, is my work email and the things that come through. So what do we do with it? These calls, these talks are designed to inspire you to, generate action and have some, different reflection than what that internal conversation is going inside of yourself. So great. Now what are we going, to put in place of? What can this now look like for me? Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. I'm going to start my day in gratitude. I can do that. I don't have to take care of, my kids first, my house first, my animal, anything first. I get to just be in practice. So this is your permission today to start inserting that in your day to day and in your life, and then welcoming, the shift, the change, the heart expansion of more happiness and fulfillment.
Absolutely. When you guys, I have children, I have a farm, I have a lot of things that depend on me to keep them alive, including myself. It's the conscious effort to make sure that I allow myself time, allow myself plan it. And it may not, it doesn't get ruined if it gets cut short. It doesn't get ruined, right? Because I intentionally use that time, but I intentionally, with that time, I move through my day that way. I bring myself back. I drop in when I'm noticing, where my focus or my worship is, right? My devotion is, my reverence is. I pull myself back. It's an active practice day to day. Um, a new thought. Ernest Holmes taught that spiritual practice, it is not about rituals, but it's about a conscious union with the divine. So when we talk about worship, we're also talking about daily devotions to truth. These can be really simple, right? It doesn't, that's the thing. Everybody makes it really complicated. It has to be this long, drawn out process. If you have an elaborate thing and that's what you do and that's what works for you, amazing. But, we're talking to those that it seems too overwhelming too. That's a lot. I don't really know where to start. A breath of gratitude, a whispered affirmation, a hand to the heart, a prayer before making a decision, choosing peace instead of proving, choosing peace instead of proving. I love that one. And that's devotion. That's worship. It's being in the awe, whether it's a morning walk so you can see the sunrise, if that's what, brings you into that worship. If it's moving your body and dance in the morning as you're, you know, getting ready to get ready for work or your day. Me, I listen to music. I get into prayer and then I sit in stillness. I listen. I move my body so that I can be in gratitude for my body because that was a long road for me of um, actually, waking up first. The first thing that ever talked to me was the pain somewhere, right? So that was the devotion to the pain. It was the worship of the pain. And so moving into what am I worshiping? Where is my reverence? And how can I be in gratitude? How can I be listening? How can I be expanding that joy that, is already expressing through me as this divine gift of grace rather than being in my way and my thoughts and my beliefs, blocking that joy in my life. So worship becomes happiness when it grounds you in meaning, when it reminds you I'm not alone. I'm not doing this by myself. I am held, I am led, I am supported, all the things, right?
Yeah. There's something you said earlier about, some of you have this like long drawn out process. Um, even even if you have rituals, even if we
Hmm.
have the things that we're doing, when you ask those questions, right? Like, and you sink into that, do I feel that I'm not alone? Do I feel that I am held, that I am supported? If you don't, it's time to make a shift, to make a change. A lot of times, and we've done our own variations of this, but what we've witnessed a lot is when somebody steps out of religion or any type of space that this is the way I'm supposed to show up, this is the way that this is supposed to look like when I talk to God, or this is the way that I'm supposed to pray. They're seeking and they're looking for somebody else external to, or another teacher to tell them, okay, this is the cookie cutter way of how we need to move forward. And so we take all of these different things and we start applying them, and then they become rigid, like a schedule. In actuality, our spirit is calling for this liberation to just be held, not from, the performance, not from the doing, nothing from the external, but just being here now and opening ourselves up. So what is that authentic thing for you? What moves your heart? What moves your soul? What allows you to just be? Tristan mentioned, playing music and how that feels. Maybe you like to sing. Maybe you have some instruments in your home. Maybe you're a writer, and spirit speaks to you in, words, and you have things that you like to capture. Play with that. Get excited about it because in truth, you get to create your relationship with divine. You get to cultivate what devotion means to you. So we hope you guys are getting inspired today. This isn't another thing that you're like, okay, how can I be devoted? How can I be in reverence?
Absolutely. And if you, and we're not saying anything, we're not telling people to not be in religion at all, because we love religion. We love the rituals of it's, but what we want to inspire you is in the religion, in the rituals, we have to be reaching a space of awe, whether it's on the more spiritual side, or if it's in the more religious side. We're all coming to the same place, and being aware also, if we're over on the spiritual side, what we're worshiping, is it the tools rather than the feeling and the devotion to God? Is it, what is it? And so there's such beautiful rituals and religion, but it's the disconnect of us just doing things that we're supposed to do rather than getting deep into the reverence and awe and the self-reflection, and getting to that space to where we're experiencing that heaven within that is said over and over to us, but we're not understanding, we're not connecting that. So all of it is perfect. All of whatever is allowing you to be in that devotion, reverence to that higher love and grace and peace and infinite possibility. I love it. But Emily Cady said, all joy, all love, all life is God in action. That means when you feel true happiness, you're experiencing God. And Louise Hay, she taught that worship is not about looking up, it's about looking within. It's about loving the divine presence inside yourself and others. And others. She would say, I am one with God and God is one with me. That's the kind of reverent love we're talking about. It's the kind of reverent love and awe and experience of that higher power moving through you, expressing as you, just feeling the vibration of that within you, that life, the life that is within you, and being able to pull yourself into that awareness every single day as often as possible. Because when I'm there, I can feel my body vibrating right now. When I'm there, I am only at peace. Nothing else exists. Nothing else exists. The understanding that altar that is right here, wherever we're at, embodying that truth, becoming a living, active act of worship, I would say, right?
Yeah, being that which we are and always have been, right? Goodness gracious. You guys, I'm just going to be really transparent with you. When we talk about things like this, sometimes they're just not words.
Yeah.
There are things that Tristan and I can try to articulate and expand to you, but it is a feeling. Is a feeling, and it is always our hope and our intention that you guys hear what you need to in the words, but that it also, just unlocks something in you, in your own way. and what that means. Because in actuality, what this conversation is about is when we enact devotion and worship in our lives, we shift it from the things that we're not desiring, or no longer wanting to operate our day to day to, and back unto the sacred. We get to move ourselves out of stress and reactivity and bring ourselves into remembrance on a day to day basis. Tristan said earlier, my practice, is in the morning and what I sink myself into. And then as my day moves on and I maybe start to recognize myself getting a little distant or distracted or stories coming in, she has her own rituals, her own practices that bring her back to that space, bring her back to that center. And so it's not just, oh, I'm going to sit here in this hour in the beginning of the day or my 5 to 10 minutes that I give myself. It's a conscious redirection of the mind, this remembrance of our life, knowing that, it is something beautiful and that there is always more love available for us. This idea that we can only have so much. We're filled so much within self-help about our cup, and we have to pour into our cup before we can pour into others. And there's a huge lesson to learn out of that, because a lot of us are, perpetuating people pleasing, and performance and all of the things. But in actuality, you are infinitely supported, infinitely being poured into all of the time. Again, when we allow it, when we connect to it. Bruce Lipton's work, he's an amazing, but is he a biologist, Tristan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like his work literally in science now, when we talk about, we speak from a space of spirituality, psychology, religion, theology, also science proves that we are connected with love and faith from a cellular basis. Our body literally shifts into healing and peace and growth when we allow it. It's not just the spiritual concept that we're talking to today, it's biological. Our body desires for us to to show up optimally, which is regulated and grounded and centered.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's a quantum biologist and talks about quantum physics and epigenetics. And
That was way basic. I know he deserves so many more
I
titles.
know, I know, because I was like, how do you explain Bruce Lipton? And we've gotten to study so much of his teachings, and it's profound, and it's so simple. It's so profound and is explained at such a scientific, microscopic level, and it comes down to it being so simple. Our cells respond, and when we're wanting more meaning in our life and more emotional safety, I mean, we're looking at worship. It creates the meaning. It lifts us out of the stress and reactivity. It brings us into remembrance. Remembrance that, this life is sacred,
Mm.
that we're a part of something beautiful, and that there's always more love available. Could you imagine if we're spending time in worship every single day to that, and some of the things we've talked about today, how can your experience not change? How can you not be able to choose and practice more happiness when our focus has shifted to something else? Instead of, we're looking for evidence everywhere that the world is a terrible place and that there's so much going on. And yes, there is so much going on, but equal on the other side of things, there's so much good going on and there's so much good waiting to come through us, but we don't allow that because of our focus and where our worship's at. And may we align our worship and our devotion and our reverence and our expressions to be that, more of that which we seek in the world. It's like it's so complicated, so complicated, but it's so simple.
It becomes simple when you give yourself the permission to make the shift.
Mhm.
Like so much of us, it's perpetuated again externally. Um, Something will change in my life that will allow me to show up in this way. Or, when all of the, stars align, I can be her, I can be this, I can be it. Um, you are, your savior. You literally are the one that gets to determine who it is that you get to be and what your life gets to look like. And it's all of these micro expressions that accumulate for your macro, for this expression, for this makeup of all that you are. So, just closing today, reminding you to just ask yourself this week, what am I devoted to? Where am I placing my energy, my heart, and my time? Those are the first questions that we're going to sink into so that we can open ourselves up to experiencing more happiness.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You talk about being our own savior day to day, we've been given the blueprint, we've been given the tools. And for me, my North Star is those teachings of Jesus, of that Christ presence and that and where to look and what to keep our focus on and how to keep ourselves in the devotion that's aligned, that it's all been laid out for us. It's all here, and we overcomplicate it, and we separate ourselves, and so many ways we create separation, and it's just not so. It's, so beginning to choose something higher, choose to honor that light inside of you, choose to return to the sacred. Then just for a moment each day, let it grow from there. You don't wait until one day a week that we decide to align and worship, you guys. This is every day. This is every moment we start, you know, having more reverence for something elsewhere other than that. But happiness isn't about chasing those highs, you guys. It's about choosing truth. Truth always lives in worship and reverence and devotion. It's always there. The answer is always in the prayer, right? The answer is always in the prayer. We love you. We hope that you have found value in this conversation. We hope that you're inspired to be seeking and spending more time in and having more focus on these things, because you're so powerful. You are so powerful, and we know what you're capable of, and we know what we as a whole are capable of creating here on Earth. And so join us next week. We're going to talk about nature. I love nature. We're going to talk about nature being another piece of that happiness puzzle, and how creation itself teaches us how to be happy. We will see you then. We love you so much.